Hi, my name is Everett Abrams. I'm the Wizard of Wood, and today I want to talk to you about different coatings. I keep getting a lot of questions. I've probably done a few videos in the past talking about different coatings and so forth, but today I want to go over it maybe in a little more detail and freshen this up. So when we're talking about exterior stains, most of the time, sealers, stains, paints, we're talking about single part or single component products where we put on one product and that's it. Most of the time when we're using sealers and stains, we get one shot at it, we put it down, it's done, and it will repel itself and repel water and the elements and so forth. So most of the time we have a single part. I want to start out with sealers first. Sealers are usually translucent. They highlight the grain of the wood, they bring out the natural tone of the wood. They can be tinted. Usually there's very few colors when it comes to this as far as a variety, and there's not much difference between them. So you'll get, some companies, manufacturers might have 6, some might have 10, 12, whatever, but usually it's a limited amount of tones. Now, the one thing about sealers is if you have really nice wood, new wood, even aged wood that has really nice characteristics, and you just want to highlight the natural tones and colors, then you're pretty much, what you're trying to do is like create what it would look like in the wet look, or maybe wet look with some tint for some color and tone, depending on your preference. So what happens is, and this is a piece of pressure treated and it's just plain, and if we give it the wet look, it has a little bit of a gold color, still see all the characteristics of the wood and so forth. So they're your translucents or your sealers. Now, with those, usually what happens is everything we do is in the prep. So if there's imperfections, the wood's old and discolored, there's things that aren't prepped correctly, this will actually highlight and accentuate those imperfections or the places we didn't really prepare correctly. So the clears, not clears so much as naturals, clears don't have much pigmentation into it, or if any. Most manufacturers, when we talk about exterior products, talk about naturals. They have a little bit of tint, pigmentation, some UV protection. What those will highlight, accentuate, and make it look like a real nice piece of natural beauty. Now, other people start to like colors and tones and more variety. They may be matching something along the lines of the home or something else. The first thing we go to is a semi-transparent. Semi means half. So halfway between a sealer and a solid stain would be the semi-transparent in most cases. So what happens with those is, and you can see we have where we have the grain and we hide about 50% of the grain. So it's hiding 50% of the wood, and halfway between the sealer and the solid, we get a semi-transparent. Now, if you have aged wood that's getting discolored, semi-transparent is a great solution. Also, this is a good solution if you have a deck and you want to stain on the floor of the deck. A semi-transparent is great because it'll wear better than a semi-solid or solid, which would pop, peel. The characteristics of it would pop and peel. Semi-transparent. Many people will take, let's just say this color is driftwood gray. If we took a driftwood gray semi-transparent, we'd put a driftwood solid on the railings if that were the case. But we really try to keep the solid off the horizontal floor, because as the wood expands and contracts, it'll pop the solids. Semi-transparent stains hide about half the grain, and there you get that. Here's a couple other samples where it hides about half the grain. And these are samples that we use when we show one of our customers. And then we have next one up is a semi-solid. Years ago, we just had sealers, we had semi-transparents and solids. Then we had semi-solids come out, and now pretty much most of the manufacturers have semi-solids. So this opens up to more colors and so forth. And what those do is, if you look, you can see the characteristic of the wood, but you don't see much of the graining and so forth. So you'll see characteristics of wood, but it's really hiding a lot of it, and you can see the texture of the wood and feel the texture of the wood more. It doesn't put that coating on top like a solid stain or a paint. So semi-solid, halfway between a semi-transparent and a solid. So semi-solids, okay? And that's another option. So what happens is, we have it on the same board and someone were to ask us, there's different tones, semi-transparent of the same color, semi-solid of the same color. And you can see characteristics of the wood, and here you see some of the graining. So this is kind of the difference between a semi-transparent and a semi-solid. Now we go up to a solid stain. A solid stain hides everything. And what happens is it's more like a paint, but it's not a paint. So paints are not permeable. We'll paint a house, we want to keep the elements out. When we stain a deck, we want a stain. So we use a solid stain, and being permeable means it's got breathability. It allows the wood to breathe. It allows for the flow and exchange of water and moisture through the coating. That's the difference between a solid stain and a paint. A lot of people say, well, there's no difference. There is a difference, and it's in the permeability of the product. So a solid stain is different than a paint in the permeability aspect. Now, we get a lot of questions where people say, hey, I got this with the coatings and everything. Do I have to put a clear coat over top of it? Do I have to put a sealer over top of the other coatings? No, you don't do that on a single component product. This isn't like staining your furniture or something in the house where we put a stain down and then we put a urethane, a polyurethane, or a varnish. In most cases outdoors we use marine varnish. So we're not doing that. That's a two-part product. There are some two-part products on the market, and you follow manufacturer's recommendations for that. And usually that involves the same thing with a stain and then a clear coat over top. However, most of our exterior products are single component. It's either a sealer, a semi-transparent, semi-solid, or solid stain, and then that's it. And then most of the time they're a two-coat application. It always depends on the manufacturer. Wet on wet, first coat can't dry before you put on the second coat, or it could be a few hour dry time before you put on a second coat, but you'll always follow the manufacturer recommendations no matter what. Now on those two parts, that is something usually when we're outside, it's a front door, it's a garage door. It's kind of like if you think about boats, anybody who's in boats, you know, what would you do is you'll stain it. You'll put on your marine varnish, and then, you know, each year a little maintenance, you sand it with a fine grit, 300 or 400 grit sandpaper, and then you apply another clear coat to maintain your stain underneath. We don't do that outside in most cases, only in usually doors and that kind of stuff where it's more decorative. But that's a whole nother process. So anyway, I just wanted to get on here, talk to you and everybody about the difference between the solids and stains. This can be for a homeowner, it can be for contractors. I tried to be a little bit of detail of each one of these and try to separate, you know, the differences and kind of get rid of some of the confusion. This time of year, we get a lot of communications between both contractors and homeowners asking for advice and so forth. And this one's really popped up a lot this year. So seems to be a lot of confusion in the coatings. Hopefully this answered some of those questions. If you have any questions, just ask them below, and we'll be sure to answer them for you. So I'm Everett Abrams, the Wizard of Wood. I appreciate you watching the video and my other videos. And if you haven't subscribed to the page, subscribe to the page, and be ready for some more videos. Thank you.